a brand new high school for 400 students in Little Village that's called MAS, the Multicultural Arts School. That today is producing some great artists, and I see them every day, and I just love walking through that school because the walls are not vanilla. There are murals in every hallway of that school, 300,000 square feet of beautiful facility that's teaching students, and that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that we improve education, but not the traditional way. Let's think outside the box, and artists are, of course, part of that mix, and that's why I'm really glad to be here with you tonight.
Terrific, and we may get some questions about the school tonight. Scott, I'll start with you, and any question I ask to a panelist, I would invite other panelists to feel free to chime in or answer the question as well. You're new to office, and so much of advocacy is about relationships. What advice would you give those in the audience or your constituents who would like to connect with you and educate you on an issue?
I use email extensively. I think we all do. But I think the point that was made in the previous presentation about writing a letter was very important. The issue that came up, the ordinance on public art displays just last week, I received a letter from a constituent, and it was a pretty forceful letter. And to be honest, I had no idea what he was talking about because the letter came before I was even in office. So somehow he knew something was going on, and I didn't have the opportunity to find out what this was about until I got into council. And I was sitting there in council, and this vote came up, and in the hurried state that city council is, I'll give you an example. We voted on the committees that we were going to be on, and then the next vote was pretty quickly, and then the next vote was a quick vote on a $1 billion bond issue for O'Hare Airport. And that was my second vote in city council. So naturally I was trying to find information just in the couple minutes that I had before I raised my hand or said aye. But getting that letter was very important because as soon as I saw that ordinance that was passed around and striked out in the way that they wanted it written, I understood instantly what the gentleman was talking about, and his 3-page letter, I think about 3 pages, really kind of brought home how important this ordinance was. And luckily, I believe Alderman Munoz and Alderman Flores were able to pretty much stop that ordinance, hold it before it was passed. So I think very important to write those letters. Written ones are even more important than an email, but email works fine too.
Welcome to my world. No, in terms of it's a relationship building. I mean, it works in business, it works in art, it works in the legal community, it works in the choice community. It's all about relationships. And it was mentioned earlier, although I'm not recruiting campaign volunteers, if you support a candidate and he sees you volunteering either at a fundraiser or knocking on doors or putting up posters, that candidate is more likely to listen to your opinion. Obviously, like-minded people flock together. So if you're working for your candidate, it's obviously because you believe he's going to be good for something. And I'm not recruiting volunteers, but pick a candidate. Find somebody you like, find somebody whose positions you like, and work for them, volunteer for them. Because when you help them get there, they're going to come back to you and say, hey, don't you know something about this issue? You know, how should I deal with it? Because then that's how, I said earlier that I have friends who are experts at different things who then use that influence, and then at the end of the day, it's my decision. At the end of the day, it's our vote that we will be held accountable for. But you want to have that relationship, and the letters do work, but please, not 3 pages long. Because we get them. We get them 3 pages long. If you can't say it in 4 paragraphs, it's way too much. Or you can do an executive summary, but yeah, not 3 pages because we get a lot of mail. And so the letters, the emails, they're all very helpful. But it helps when we know that the constituent lives in the ward, has a return address, has a phone number, because the one thing, I'll tell you, I don't read anonymous mail. We get it. And I ask my staff, who's it from? And it says it didn't have a return address on the envelope or on the letter. So, pitch it. You know, they'll read it to make sure it doesn't say anything crazy, but I won't read it. because we just get too much.
Good deal. In terms of the impact of research, the Arts Alliance has relied on research to advance its cause. Liesl has referenced our Arts at the Core research to advance our efforts for increased funding around arts education. Yesterday, we were pleased to partner with Americans for the Arts to release a new report on the economic impact of the arts in Chicago. This question for Megan, how does research impact your work and the efforts to advance healthcare in Illinois?
I definitely spend most of my time doing advocacy and trying to do membership building, but research does play a crucial point in trying to reach out to people and convince them to work on your issue. We have been very fortunate with our organization to have a lot of national partners who are policy experts who we see a bad bill in the House of Representatives and we say, can you do this research about why this would help the insurance industry? And the next day we get a fact sheet from them. So that is a really great example of networking and trying to use the resources that are available to you to get the research that you need. Another interesting thing about this legislative session is that through several years of relationship building, we've been able to cultivate a relationship with a healthcare economist whose name is Ken Thorpe. And he is at Emory University, and he has done a lot of work. He worked for the Clinton administration on his healthcare plan. He recently did a lot of contributing to the healthcare bill that passed out of Vermont that has universal access to healthcare. And so he has been doing some consulting work with our organization through a national partner to be talking about cost savings. That's one of his big issues, because a lot of times people think about healthcare reform and they feel like, oh, well, it's just too much money, and how do we ever fix something? We have the most expensive healthcare in the world. And so we've been trying to do a lot of messaging through his research about that, the state is strapped for money, but if we are to move forward with healthcare reform and to fix some of the structural problems in the system, we'll actually realize savings. And his research put it at $15.6 billion over the next 4 years if this bill was to go into effect. And so I guess my closing remark would be that, research can be very helpful in trying to craft a message that can then resonate with the legislator. And it's really important to have all of your facts and have that research available when you're meeting with that legislator, and to have other resources available for follow-up. So,
on research, I wrote down, electeds want to sound smart.